just a few words on AMAC. AMAC was founded in 2008 as the only research institute in South Africa. 1998, sorry. Much longer than that, 1998. As the only research institute in South Africa working on West Asia and Africa together. AMAC has dealt with a number of geopolitical issues. It has hosted several conferences and seminars. I'm sure many people in this room have attended some of those conferences. AMAC also has, as you can see there, published numerous publications, some of which are on sale. And tonight, please reach out to Khadija and Sumaya, who are aware of the prices for those publications. And for some of you, you might have wondered where AMAC was in the last few years. It has gone through a bit of a funding crisis, yes. But Alhamdulillah, AMAC is now in the beginning of a revival. And today marks that significance. And we are very honored to welcome you to this event. So we meet today at a genuinely consequential moment in history. 5 days ago, a memorandum of understanding was signed between the Islamic Republic of Iran and the United States. It ended military operations and it provided for an opening for 60 days, a window of negotiations, particularly to deal with some of the harder questions around nuclear arrangements, sanctions, Lebanon, and the future of the Strait of Hormuz. For South Africans, this war has never been a distant event. Economically, our currency and fuel prices have been affected, just as African supply chains absorb the shockwaves of the war. Politically, our government has taken a very clear position since the beginning, stating categorically that the strikes of the February 28th were inconsistent with international law, and has taken that position despite it being clear that it comes at real diplomatic cost. Recently, our Minister of International Relations and Cooperation, Minister Ronald Lamola, welcomed the MOU, reaffirming the need and respect for the sovereignty and territorial integrity of all states. So this is not abstract for us, and this is why precisely understanding where we are in this particular moment is important and it matters. And our guest today is exceptionally well placed to help us with that understanding and to do that. So before I introduce our guest, just two house rules. The first is pictures of the panel is allowed. Salam Media is here and will be streaming, but please do not take pictures of the audience, especially without express consent. There are many here who do not feel comfortable. And then we will have His Excellency speak to us, followed by a poem, which I'll introduce later, a discussion, and then we'll open up the Q&As. In the Q&A, we ask that at that point, Chatham House rules apply, and that means you can quote or talk about the content, but not attribute it to anyone who has spoken. And so, let's move on to our speaker. So today we are very, very honored. I hope this is still working. No. Let's swap it. Okay, there we go. So today we are very, very honored to have with us His Excellency Dr. Saeid Khatibzadeh, who serves as the Deputy Foreign Minister in Iran. He has decades of experience as he has joined the ministry in 1998, serving in multiple positions, including as the former spokesperson and former ambassador to Croatia. He currently is the president of IPIS, the Institute for Political and International Relations, Iran's foremost foreign policy research institute. Dr. Khatibzadeh is a practitioner and a thinker, someone who sits in decision-making rooms. He is here to provide us with the substance of the situation and where it actually is and where it's leading. I would like to also acknowledge the presence of Mr. Akbar Khosravinej, the Assistant Minister and Deputy General of African Affairs of Iran in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. We also acknowledge the Ambassador, Mr. Mansour Shakibmeh. Thank you for joining us, and we're honored to have you here. Okay, so I will now hand over to Dr. Khatibzadeh for about 30 minutes to, enlighten us.
Oh, thank you very much. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I'm not sure if everybody can see me because I cannot, some of you. I can stand if you think that is much better. So, sitting or standing? Standing, okay. So if you allow me, that's, it shows that I have been teacher. Okay, the only problem that I have when I am standing is I put my hands in my pocket. So so sometimes people are telling me, oh, why you are doing that? I said that it's out of the behavior as a teacher. So Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Thank you very much for giving me this very opportunity. And thank you very much for organizing this event. I'm here for a very short visit, but I think that nevertheless, it gives me an opportunity to talk to you about Iran's foreign policy, and also about the latest state of affairs after the US-Israeli aggression against Iran. So I try to be brief in terms of my introductory to understanding Iran's foreign policy and focus more on the actual state of affairs right now in Iran. I think the most important thing to understand a country's foreign policy is to understand what are the main elements that affect decision making in that specific or given country. When we are talking about Iran's foreign policy, we have to know that Iran's foreign policy doesn't start with the Islamic Revolution of 1979. Though the revolution of 1979 plays a huge role on Iran's foreign policy. Iran's foreign policy can be understood based on two different set of factors: the structural factors and situational factors. The structural factors are those factors that are very much related to the history, the identity of Iranians, the civilization of Iran, the geography of Iran. Iran is a seated cat connecting Persian Gulf to the Caspian Sea. Iran is neighboring 15 countries, 1-5. It is huge. Iran is a country of millennia. Iran is the oldest living civilization on earth. So when we are talking about Iran, we are talking about a very specific identity, which is subject to millennia of civilization. This civilization is not just a pre-Islamic, civilization. It is also post-Islamic civilization. Iran uh, has witnessed different era in history. Iranian identity is a delicate balance between pre-Islam and post-Islamic era. Pre-Islamic era is the era of Zoroastrianism in Iran, but based on which there are many traditions still alive inside Iran. The language that we are talking, Farsi, is based on the very old and ancient language that we had, from which many of other languages in subcontinent and even beyond that has been driven. Also, post-Islamic Iran is also a source of identity for us. So Islam is part of our identity. And this is also among the structural factors which very much affect the identity of Iranian and affect Iran's foreign policy behavior. But these are not the only factors that affect Iran's foreign policy. Also, we do have situational factors. Situational factors are those factors that are very much subject to time, changes, but they are also very important. The political structure of Iran, the Islamic Republic of Iran, is a matter of this situational factor. The Islamic Revolution of 1979, also that. Oil, energy resources, and many power politics inside the region and outside also is among those factors that are very much affecting Iran's foreign policy. When I'm talking about the the political structure of Iran as a source of a situational element which very much affect Iran's foreign policy. I'm talking about the political structure as Islamic Republic. Islamic Republic is a answer to 100 years of struggle of Iranians for democracy, for justice, and for freedom. From the constitutional revolution in Iran almost 120 years ago up until now, there have been different attempts by Iranians to settle down this dispute. They once settled down in the constitutional revolution, then a coup happened, a British coup happened, which actually toppled down the political structure which was outcome of the constitutional revolution 100 years ago. Then there was another attempt. A democratic elected government of Iran came to power in 1953. I'm not telling you history. I'm just giving you an understanding why you are here. Iranians struggled, pioneered, and nationalized their oil industry. Mossadegh, Prime Minister of Iran, democratically elected Prime Minister of Iran, nationalized oil. Then another coup happened. CIA, Mossad orchestrated another coup against this government. They toppled on Mossadegh in 1953. There are those who are debating inside Iran, outside Iran, and call this coup a coup which changed not only the destiny of Iran, but also the destiny of the whole Middle East. And who did that? CIA and Mossad, hand in hand, and orchestrated this. There are those who even debate that 1979 revolution is byproduct of 1953 coup by Americans and Britishers. Why I am telling you all this? Because I would like to tell you that this sense of sovereignty that you are seeing in Iran, this sense of independence that you are seeing in Iran, this sense of justice seeking, freedom seeking, is very much derived out of this contemporary history of Iran. When Iran did revolution in 1979 and expelled Americans from Iran, they decided not to forgive us. They couldn't digest reality of a new Iran. From then, they started punishing Iranians because of the 1979 revolution. They started a coup against us. They failed. Then they supported Saddam Hussein in his invasion of Iran. They failed. Then started different rounds of velvet revolutions inside Iran. They failed. But they never accepted the reality of a new Iran, a new independent Iran, an Iran that can be an independent state, not being a gendarme of United States in the Persian Gulf anymore. The people of Iran decided to be independent. They didn't accept. So whatever happened afterward, up until now, trying to delegitimize Iranian society, Islamic Republic, trying to demonize Islamic Republic, trying to isolate the Islamic Republic, trying to corner the Islamic Republic of Iran, and trying then to topple down the political structure of Iran for many decades has been derived from this very fact that Americans couldn't digest the reality of neo-Iran, post-revolutionary Iran, independent Iran. So let's jump from this conceptual framework to understand Iran to what happened last year and the last few months of rapid developments that we all witnessed inside Iran. Last June, Israel and United States attacked us. They started aggression against us. Illegal, unprovoked aggression against us. You can ask this very simple question. Why Americans started and Israelis started aggression against us? Why this genocidal regime of Israel, after slaughtering Gazans, thousands of Gazans in Palestine, they started to think about aggression against us? So the big question is why? Was Iran an imminent threat to anybody? Was it because Iran was not negotiating, was not accepting diplomatic solution to settle down the dispute with the United States? Was Iran an imminent threat? You know, Nadira talked about 2015 nuclear agreement. In 2015, we signed an unprecedented agreement between Iran and P5 plus one. P5 means permanent members of United Nations Security Council plus Germany. 15 consecutive reports by the International Atomic Energy Agency, which is the sole watchdog of approving and endorsing that Iran was abided by terms and conditions of that nuclear agreement, said crystal clearly that Iran was fully and faithfully implementing the JCPOA. And what is the JCPOA? That nuclear agreement. Even Tulsi Gabbard, you know her, in a hearing, in a briefing in the Congress, said last March, 2 months before the Israelis' aggression against Iran, that there is no evidence whatsoever that Iran's program has been deviated or Iran has pursued any nuclear weaponization. To the extent that President Trump, when Israel started aggression against Iran and they bombed Iran, when journalists asked him why you attacked Iran while Tulsi Gabbard says that Iran was no imminent threat, he said that I don't care about what she says. Even Grossi, who is not necessarily a very professional in or fair in some of his statements about Iran, even him, as the head of IAEA, when after June aggression against Iran, some journalists posed a question to him that there are those who are suggesting that your report was the base for US-Israeli aggression against Iran, quote unquote, I'm saying on the record. He said that I would like to raise once whatever similar to that Iran, quote unquote, was not building a bomb and is not building a bomb, and nobody should misuse our reports to justify starting aggression against us, against Iran. So if Iran definitely was not a threat, let aside being imminent threat, was Iran not negotiating or retracting with Americans or diplomatic or actually working within the diplomatic framework? Again, we were discussing, we were negotiating, we were on the table. I was personally, last June, with my foreign minister. Around this time, I was in Oslo, in the margin of Oslo Forum, through our mediators, Foreign Minister of Oman, Mr. Busaidi, with the presence of Norwegian authorities, and also with the knowledge of other foreign ministers who were there, including Foreign Minister of Saudi Arabia, Foreign Minister of Egypt, and few others. We were exchanging messages through Mr. Busaidi with American envoy Steve Witkoff. Everything was fine. To the extent that we were discussing whether Mr. Witkoff should come to Oslo with the presence of Foreign Minister of Oman to continue negotiation, or we have to go to Muscat on Sunday, and I'm talking about Wednesday. Down the road, we couldn't agree on a date, so we decided not to meet there, and then we said that let's meet on Sunday in Muscat. I arrived in my apartment midnight on Friday. 1 a.m. I went to bed. 3 a.m. in the morning, my wife woke me up and told me that something bad is happening. I rushed to the window, and then I noticed that Israel started a coordinated attack against us. At that very moment, in the middle of negotiation, they bombed negotiating table. They assassinated our off-duty commanders in the middle of night with their families and with their neighbors, and they committed war crimes by killing whole families and whole buildings and whole neighborhoods. It took 12 days of resistance, full resistance by Iranians. You remember that President Trump tweeted unconditional surrender, request for unconditional surrender. I can tell you that in less than 10 days, he requested unconditional ceasefire. Then we started another round of negotiation by mediations. We received a lot of messages through our mediators that please, this time United States would be different, Trump would be different, Steve Witkoff would be different, they are going to just make a deal with you. There were many skeptics inside Iran, but Iran, while we were very much skeptical about the intention of the United States, while we started a sort of armed negotiation, we decided to give another chance to diplomacy. Though we were very much skeptical, and there was a canyon of mistrust between Tehran and Washington after they betrayed diplomacy. We entered. Again, that happened, that vicious circle of betraying to diplomacy. We met in Geneva, and this time, it was not just Iran, United States, one or two in the room. Qataris were there, Grossi was there, even a very high-ranking British envoy was there a day before the talks, and everything was fine, to the extent that Americans told us, they looked up in their calendar and said that, okay, we cannot meet on Saturday, no Sunday, let's meet on Monday in Vienna to just draft and craft and conclude the technical aspect of the deal. What happened? Saturday, 9:30 a.m. in the morning, they martyred standing the head of state, Iran's head of state, Grand Ayatollah Khamenei, Imam of Iranians, a Grand Ayatollah, a Marja of Shias, and also the head of state of Iran, martyred standing in his office with his family and his people. Then in the same few hours of beginning of this aggression, they slaughtered kids, 160 plus kids in Minab, in a small city, southern part of Iran. They used double top missiles to make sure that all the kids have been slaughtered. Then they attacked Lamert. I'm talking about the first few hours of this illegal, outlaw, reckless aggression. They attacked a small city a small city of Lamert in Shiraz. How? With Prism missiles. And you know what is Prism missile? Prism missile is a blast of 180,000 pellets. They attacked a sport hall to kill innocent kids who were in that hall. This is the true nature of this reckless outlaw regime in the United States. We were in the middle of negotiation. They attacked us again. Then they started to attack the ceremonial vessel of Iran 1,000 miles away from the battlefield. And later on, President of the United States went to the podium and said that was fun. To target that ceremonial vessel and to let them to die, even not saving the crews of that vessel. You know that Nazi Germany was doing the same, but they were staying to just save the crew. These events changed the strategic calculus of Iran forever. That we are facing a battle of survival. We are facing an existential war. And this enemy is going after the civilization of Iran. You remember the president of United States tweeted that I'm going to obliterate the civilization, the whole civilization. During the 12-day war, we were restrained, we were predictable, we were measured, we were proportionate. This time, once forever, we told them, if it is different, then Iran is different, and new Iran emerged. Their objective was to topple down the political structure of Iran. Their objective was to disintegrate Iran. Their objective was to penetrate and send separatist group, terror cells. Their aim was to dismantle Iran's means of defense. Their aim, their objective was to eradicate Iran's deterrence forever, denying the enemy and the aggressor. The objective per se is a victory, a strategic victory for the country which is resisting. And Iran was victorious in terms of not letting the aggressor and the enemy or enemies to achieve any of their goals. That was a bad strategic failure of United States seeking this war of dominance and hegemony over us. So why Americans started this aggression against Iran? Because they thought that Iran is so weak that Iran cannot hit back, push back, and balance back against the aggressor. Because they bought this misargument marketed by Netanyahu and the genocidal regime of United States of Israel in United States, that the people of Iran are going to make revolution, are going to revolt against the central government of Iran. The resilience of Iranian society has come to an end, and different other misarguments. This laboratory, this war was a lab to test all these misarguments, most of which proved to be wrong and misleading. Iran not only resisted to the last bullet, to the last blood, and showed determination to push back and hit back and balance back against aggressors, but only revived, deterrence and played with some geopolitical cards that Iran has never played. So what is the state of affair? We are in negotiation with the United States. Why? Because the United States, again, this time, from day 11 of the war, when they noticed that military solution is not an option for them, they sent us many messages that they would like to see some sort of settlement of this dispute. We didn't accept that. It took 40 days. And when we decided that this is the time to stop, and then you can come to negotiating table. We told Americans a very simple rule. You cannot seek negotiation to dominate because you lost the war of dominance over Iran. You cannot seek outcome of this negotiation, whatever you couldn't achieve through battlefield. So whatever you couldn't achieve through battlefield, you cannot achieve through negotiation. It is simple rule. And based on that simple rule, we are negotiating with Americans. We are seeking a sort of permanent settlement of this dispute, but that was a moment of truth. Moment of truth means that we can never accept that Americans pose threats and this genocidal regime in Israel playing these power politics with other countries in this region, including Iran. I stop here, if you allow me, to let you have your questions. Then I will be more than happy to detail you about different aspects of the state of affairs and also understand more about your idea about the situation to be able to better reflect on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm also going to stand because I can see you cannot see us at the back. Thank you. That was really great. And clearly you are a teacher. This was really a wide history lesson to where we are today. And I think also shows the level of aggression against the very identity of Iran. So we'd like to now, we are very privileged to have with us Putlane Bofelo. He's a social critic, poet, and he's going to share with us a poem today.
Good evening. Assalamu alaikum. The Dust and the Flame, song for Imam Khomeini and Ali Shariati. In the womb of silence, where the veils of ego thicken like clay, I hear the whisper of the eternal, not in temples, not in tombs, but in the weeping of the oppressed, in the uprising of forgotten bones. O traveler of the inward path, shatter the mirror of the self that reflect only masks and names. Let the wine of divine love dissolve the fortress of pride, for the cup must break before it can hold the infinite. From the muddy breath of Iblis, we crawl towards the light, each step a crucifixion of illusion, each tear a baptism in truth. The revolution is not in the street alone. It is in the fire that consumes the false idols within. Blessed are those who struggle, whose blood sings louder than sermons. Oppression is a tomb without end, but martyrdom opens the gate to gardens unseen, gardens eternal. God is not absent in suffering. He is the pulse in the wound, the echo in the scream, the resurrection in the dust. He does not dwell in dogma, but in trembling hands that lift the fallen. If your religion cannot walk beside the dying, cannot speak in the language of a hunger, then it is a corpse draped in holy robes. Rise, beloved soul, not with fist alone, but with the sword of compassion. Let your heart be the minaret from which the call to awakening rings. Let your breath be the prayer that bears a new dawn, for the divine is not above, he is within, waiting to be remembered in the revolution of love. The Buffalo thesis. A coterie of chakras, an orchestra of tongues, journey spiraling inward, remembrance, salutation. The tongue sings a heart's pulsations, mind's rumination, the way of love, a river returning to itself. Transitions, interregna, songs rising from the root. Power, not a fist clenched, not a crown won, but the horizon of action, the spectrum of intervention summoned by the human agent. Capability is constellation, each star a gesture, each gesture a world, yet power is relational, its range drawn by others, by structures, by resistance, by the invisible hands of history. Protest, rupture in silence, a disruptive direct action, collective interest converging into one loud heartbeat. Claim rise like banners, spoken against barricades, against the elite, against authorities, against the walls of indifference. Protest is grammar of resistance, syntax of solidarity, punctuation of refusal. It is an architecture of change built from the collective breath of those who dare to speak. Leadership is jazz. Improvisation in motion, psychopated rhythms of trust. Leadership is cooling, a curriculum of courage, the pedagogy of example. Leadership is captaincy. The helm gripped firm, eye on the horizon, and storm alike. Leadership is also hip-hop, beat of the street, pulse of resistance, simply memory remixing history, rhymes as a weapon, flow as freedom. A leader is a master chef, balancing flavors of vision, seasoning courage with compassion, stirring agency into structure, serving sustenance for the soul. Be a captain, a facilitator, a jazz maestro, a hip-hop head, a master chef, moment by moment, roles shifting like tides, voices blending like instruments, gestures layered like spices. Leadership is not one mask, but a constellation of masks, a dance of multiplicity, a feast of improvisation. It is presence in flux, the art of becoming, the way of love in action. Multi-perspectivity against singularity. Harare, Soweto, Katatura, Mumbai, Harvard, Stellenbosch, Johannesburg are the gifts of the heads, hearts, hands, locked in biology, history, geography, and genitalia, or do intellect, conscience, passion, competence transcends the boundary of flesh and soul? Structure and agency in flux and endless conversation, contestation, competition, cooperation, interactions, eternal triad, blues, philosophy, philosophy's blues, existential quandaries, mystical dilemmas, the song of being, the silence of becoming.
Shukran. So shukran for that. I think we need hope, and it often lies, especially in this moment, and it often lies in music, poetry, and art. And your sentence, "God is in the resurrection of the dust," I think that resonates with us. So we'd now, I'd like to introduce AMEC's Executive Director, Naeem Jina. He is the Senior Researcher at MISTRA, as well as a Research Associate at the Political and International Relations Department at the University of Johannesburg. He'll give us a short response as a discussant, and then we'll open up for Q&A.
Also standing. No. I'm not sure that I have much to say after. I need to come. Yeah. Yeah, not sure that I have too much to say after Dr. Khatibzadeh and Putlane, but nevertheless, here we go. I think what we have to recognize, as many of us recognized about 3 years ago, when the October 7th Al-Aqsa flood operation took place, many of us believed at that time that the world will never be the same again. And I think we are seeing another moment like that in these past few months with the war that has taken place on Iran, and the outcome, in a sense, of outcomes of that war. In many ways, it will change the world. In many ways, it will reshape global geopolitics. We're seeing a reassertion of not just one nation state, but a reassertion in a sense of the agendas of the global south, of the former colonized world, being played out in front of us and on our screens. We're also seeing, and will see, I believe, massive changes in the West Asia region itself. The kind of norm, the accepted understanding that that security in the region required all these countries to have American bases to protect them, I think is, if anyone still believes that, certainly I don't think that many in Saudi Arabia or Qatar or Oman, Kuwait even, I don't think many people there believe that anymore. I think that that these few months have proved two things to Gulf Arabs. Number one, that in order to protect yourself, having an American base actually makes you more vulnerable, that it actually attracts rather than aggression rather than protects against it. And number two, that clearly the main enemy in the region is the one that did receive protection from the United States, and that is Israel. And so, and I'd like to hear what Dr. Khatibzadeh has to say about this as well. How do relations of states in the Persian Gulf change after this, and what will we see moving forward? What I should also say that Iran represents in many ways a kind of an experiment after the Islamic Revolution of 1979, an experiment in an assertion of an indigenous form of democracy. Those who deny that Iran is democratic don't know how it works. But is it as the same kind of democracy as the United States? No. Is it the same kind of democracy as Scandinavian states? No. It is an indigenous form of democracy. You can agree with it or not agree with it, find fault with this, that, or the other, but that's what it is. And unfortunately, and we saw particularly after the uprisings in the West Asia and North Africa region after 2010, 2011, that the call by many political role players was for a democracy that was imported, for an economic system that was imported, rather than something that was born indigenously. And I think that is a lesson that needs to be learned, comparing those experiments with this experiment. I say it's an experiment because I don't believe that it's over. It's only 47 years in the making. But what this experiment has also shown us, whatever criticisms you might have of it, praise you might have of it, what it has also shown us through 47 years of sanctions and fighting against sanctions, 47 years of indigenous development, 47 years of struggling to grow economically because of the sanctions, and hence, we saw in January protests that took place in Iran, mainly because of this economic situation that is mainly a creation of the sanctions. What it has also shown us through all of that is the importance of jealously guarding and protecting by a people of its sovereignty and its independence. And if we didn't get that even by July last year, I think by now we should. And herein is an important lesson, I think, for those of us who are South African. The issue has always been, the argument has always been made in South Africa that we need to be gafle, take it easy, because if we go too hard against the Israelis, then we don't know what response we're going to get from the Americans. Now, even for a country like South Africa, which is completely tied into the global economy, etc., anyone that still believes that is not reading things properly. Why do I say that? There's several studies. Okay. Someone's Siri heard a word that I said. Why do I say that? There's several studies. So, two big things that have been mentioned in the past. Number one, three things. Number one, if we take too hard a line as a country, we'll lose our AGOA benefits. Number two, we'll lose American aid. Number three, we'll lose American trade. And these three things put together will kill our economy. That has been the argument. And successive governments have been, take it easy because of. There's several studies now that show, academic studies, including from the US, that if South Africa were to be deprived of its so-called AGOA benefits, the United States will suffer more than we would. As unbelievable as that might sound, the studies are there. They're on the internet. You can find them. The United States cut off aid to South Africa last year. Didn't make that much of a difference. Okay, yes, thousands of health workers that worked for NGOs that were supported by PEPFAR, USAID, lost their jobs. But in terms of our AIDS program, didn't make that much of a difference, right? In terms of our economy, didn't make any difference. We're not reliant on American aid. In terms of trade, we had the G20 last year. American businesses were there, big business was there, part of the B20, even though the government wasn't part of the G20, part of the B20, here to make it clear to South Africans that whatever the government decides, they want business to continue as usual. The whole point of that is to say to us that this reliance on the US has been a figment of our imagination. And for a moment, we got that sense also from our government. I mean, the South African government, the president included, took a hard line on that. Went ahead with the theme of the summit, went ahead with the declaration of the summit, insisted that the declaration would be adopted before the other discussions, and then refused to hand over the G20 presidency to the US at the summit. They had to go and collect it at Dirko, making the point that we can do without the US. And so I'm just saying that the lesson that Iran is giving us is precisely this, that there's ways in which the power of certain nations is highly exaggerated. This is what I said about South Africa. But of course, we do know that the United States military spending is more than, it's the highest military spending in the world, more than the other 9 states following it put together. Yet, this is not even China, this is Iran, not anywhere in the top 10 of military spending, basically militarily defeated the United States. Surviving against the United States for 3-4 months is a defeat for the United States, the largest military in the world. Why? Because of this insistence of jealously protecting their sovereignty and independence. Are there costs for such protection of sovereignty and independence? Absolutely. Losing 168 schoolgirls on the first day of a war is not something that anyone will forget. Certainly not any Iranian will forget. There are costs. Ask people in Gaza. There are costs. Struggles don't come cheaply, they don't come easily, and they don't come without sacrifice, otherwise they wouldn't be called struggles. So the costs are there, and there will be costs, and the harder you push that line of independence, the more the costs would be. But in the old end, what is the benefit of it all is the question. So the question, and perhaps Dr. Khatibzadeh will respond to this as well, is who won in these few months? Who won? Well, in terms of the war, the Americans are desperate to get out of it. So desperate that they are shouting and swearing at the Israelis. In terms of the negotiations over the past weeks, couple of months, anyone that has been following it knows that the Iranians refused to give in on anything, that they had bottom lines and they stood by those. I remember in several interviews that I gave, and the question, so what will be compromised? And one of the things I said was this thing of compensation for the war crimes. I think that's a non-starter. I think the sanctions will happen, the return of some of the assets, but this compensation thing is a non-starter. Well, I was wrong. It's there in the MOU. It's going to happen somehow, simply because they refuse to give in. In the MOU, no one can believe, reading that document, that the Americans and Israelis won this round, right? From the insistence on Lebanon being a front and the war ending there, to this issue of the compensation, to the understanding that sanctions will be substantially lifted. Yes, it'll be from this phase of negotiations, but in principle it's agreed. On the nuclear issue, Iran had never said it wants to build a nuclear weapon, so there's no big deal there, etc. On every one of those points, the Americans basically had to back down. We will see how it will go in the next while, because clearly the Americans can't be trusted. All of the examples that Dr. Khatibzadeh gave, as well as others. I mean, in 2018, the JCPOA was torn to shreds. Even in this period, people don't really speak about this, but there was an agreement at some point that the Strait of Hormuz will be opened by both sides. And the Iranians opened it in the morning for a few hours, and the Americans refused to, and the Iranians reimposed it. Because you just can't trust the Americans. So whatever the MOU says, which, as I say, is clearly a win for the Iranians, we see how it will play out. Of course, the big elephant in this whole room is Palestine, and perhaps Dr. Khatibzadeh can respond to what does all this mean for Palestine. But in the region, Iran has reasserted its deterrence for people who thought that it wasn't there anymore, reasserted in a sense, in some forms, its dominance in the region, certainly. But globally, you know, there's two aspects of this war that we don't talk too much about, although we kind of know it. This asymmetric war that we speak about, it's not just about missiles and drones. Who here hasn't watched a Lego video, right? I mean, these are the propaganda victories. I watched this. There's this one woman on Instagram, oldish woman, kind of oldish woman, probably in her late 60s. All her videos on Instagram. What? No? Okay. All her videos on Instagram are her dancing to Iranian Lego videos. That's all she does. Okay. You can find it if you want. So the propaganda line is something that the Iranians have won in a way that I think many of us couldn't even imagine a little while ago. But the other one, which is even less spoken about, is the cyber war. Hanbala, that organization, Iranian organization, I mean, they exposed all of the emails of the head of the FBI, Kash Patel. That's just one. I mean, there's about half a dozen actions that they did, which are extremely impressive, including the fact that the Americans are saying now that that they have infiltrated the electricity and water systems in the United States, that they're not doing anything, but they could. That the software is in there that has penetrated it, Trojan horses, and my time is up. And so let me end on this note, that the other thing we're seeing is that this has put a definite pause, at least, to the Israeli project of a greater Israel. The point about targeting Iran is not really regime change. I mean, you know, this regime, that regime. The point about targeting Iran for the Israelis was to plunge Iran into a long-term anarchy and chaos. Create a Kurdish part, an Arab part, a this and that part, let them fight among themselves, so that because Iran was the main threat to the project of a greater Israel. Syria, it already occupies parts of. Lebanon, it already occupies parts of. The UAE, it occupies almost the whole of, with consent. The Iranian victory now has put at least a pause to that. So let me end there.
Thank you, Naeem. And I think what you touch on is sometimes there's debates about the decline of the empire as we know it, and the growing distrust, but also the reshaping of global governance and the collapse of the multilateral system. So we're going to open up to Q&A, and I'm sure that there's a lot of people who'd like to ask questions. We do encourage you to please ask questions, and a reminder that recordings will not be made of the audience, but only of the panel. So please feel free to speak, and please only take pictures and videos if you ask for consent. I am, however, going to limit questions and comments to 2 minutes because there's a lot of people and we don't have a lot of time. So we'll take a first round of 3 and then continue from there. Okay, so I have one. Is there